Hello again, everyone. This is Robin, and in this segment, we are going to talk about wellness. Now, I believe that wellness has gotten a lot of attention in this last year. A lot of folks are talking about wellness in a pretty significant way. For us to be able to successfully navigate a global pandemic, the conversations about wellness had to come top of mind. So I see it in the media. I see it when I'm working with organizations, and I know a lot of folks are talking about wellness. But I do think that the current definition of wellness, it does need a bit of a reckoning. What I have observed is that the health industry has really commandeered our understanding of wellness recently. And this, I don't think, happened overnight. I think this has been a slow, a steady kind of erosion that's happened. And when I hear people talking about wellness now, what most people are talking about is physical health, which means this idea of sleep, nutrition, exercise, and the absence of disease. Now, that is physical health, and that does equal physical wellness, but that is only one dimension. That is only one area of wellness. When I work with a broader definition of a wellness dimension, physical is very important, absolutely. But again, that's just one spoke on a bigger wheel. So I want to tell you about the other areas of wellness because when I am working with persons, frontline workers, caregivers, all of different sorts from different backgrounds, we see that when we have a broader definition of wellness, we're able to experience a different way of being. And my invitation for you is to really find what matters most so you can live rightly, so that way you can show up and continue to be of service to others. And when I think about the ultimate goal of wellness, it very much is to shift from self to service, but in a way that honors and preserves you in the process. So let me introduce a different way of thinking about wellness. So yes, we know it is physical. There's no arguing there. We know that. But it's also emotional. Your thoughts need a safe place to land in your mind. You need to feel psychological safety. You need to know that your emotions are honored and valued. In our culture, we really push away emotions as not being valid or being really destructive. Emotions are part of what makes us us. Our emotions are data points. They let us know what's happening on the inside. Our emotional health is crucial. Emotional wellness is very important. Another dimension of wellness that we see is what we call the social dimension. It means being part of community. And in my work on resiliency, this reconnects to that sense of belonging. It is absolutely important that we have people around us who support us. And one of the observations I see in my work is the circles tend to get smaller when they get more real. So there's folks who have tons of networks, tons of followers, tons of friends. But then when we really think about what matters most or who is there for you when you need support or you need to receive, those circles get pretty small. And it's okay to have a smaller circle. It might be little, but I'm sure it's mighty. So understanding that social piece is so important. Now, just as a wee bit of a side, a lot of folks I've been talking to have shared with me that they're worried that they're becoming even extra introverted during the current COVID season. And what I let folks know is just to be patient with ourselves. There's no right or wrong way to do social. It's in the way that makes you feel supported, where you can give and you can receive and you feel worthy and feel as though you belong, where you are your most authentic self. Now, other than just that physical, other than just emotional and social, there's also environmental wellness. And this is a very big concept that we talk about in terms of like where we're showing up in our space. So I often let people know that this is kind of inside outside. So inside, we want to make sure that your basic needs are met. We want to make sure that you have space where you feel safe, where you feel secure, where there's a little bit of certainty when all possible. Your space matters. Now, I always let my household know when I'm feeling overwhelmed and not feeling very well, usually my space is pretty chaotic, right? My car is a mess, my office is a mess, and you wouldn't be able to find my dresser. When I'm feeling well, I actually know that there's more order in my physical space. Now, this doesn't mean we have to be like totally neat and have everything in place in perfection, but it's understanding that what's around us is going to contribute to us being well. Now, I can let you know, as a mom of 3 teenagers, I have surrendered kind of the whole house being in order. That's not something that's sustainable or realistic. But where I do hold my ground is a clean kitchen in the morning. I need to have a clean kitchen in the morning. For some reason, that environmental start helps me start my day on the right footing. So inside, the environment matters. Now, this is a bigger conversation because outside also matters too. We're called to be eco stewards of the land. We need to be honoring and respecting the land in which we are part of. Our environment matters. This is part of wellness. And what's interesting, the research demonstrates when children grow up with this idea of like eco stewardship, they become better caregivers of the land. They honor and respect the lands. We have to make sure environmentally we have those parts in check as well. Now, another dimension of wellness is spirituality. Now, I appreciate that for some people and don't like talking about this. It's kind of like politics and money, but spirituality matters to the people who practice it. And what we see is that when we look at some of the common themes of world religions, there are these themes that really talk about knowing where we can find peace, knowing to surrender, where we're able to find our value systems. So I want you to think about this as your wellness in terms of being connected to something bigger than ourselves, something greater than ourselves. And again, what that looks like for you, I honor and respect each person's freedom to express what that spirituality means to you, but I don't want it to get neglected because when we look around, people don't talk about it. If you find your faith and your capacity for resiliency and your deep sense of wellness within your faith base or your spirituality or your religious practices, that's part of wellness. We have to make sure to nurture that part of us that is searching for meaning and for purpose. Now, when I think about this idea that sometimes people struggle with this, there are areas where this is uncomfortable for people. So we're not saying that, you have to figure this out, but it's knowing that we do have a purpose. That's something that I subscribe to. We all have kind of a personal legend that we are trying to fulfill, and understanding that idea of purpose and meaning and values. It's absolutely crucial to wellness. Now, another dimension of wellness that people don't always think about is our financial wellness. You have to have your basic needs met for you to have psychological safety. And when we think about our basic financial needs, this is something that is absolutely crucial. If you aren't able to have the basic needs and that shelter and your basic needs met, the other wellness practices aren't going to take traction. We have to make sure people have their basic needs met. So financial matters. Now, on the same vein, and I think this is important for my frontline staff here, is that there's also occupational wellness. We need to make sure people are working in environments where they feel safe, where their needs are met, where they're also appreciated. We need to know that our roles matter, and there's no position greater or lesser, that we're all contributing to having this operation be successful. And when I think about my caregivers, for some of us, that has become our occupation, that we are primary caregivers for the people that matter most. So we have to make sure our working conditions are sustainable. There's something that we're able to do. We also have another dimension of wellness that is our intellectual wellness. And what I mean by that is we need to be inspired, intellectually need to be curious and experience wonderment and awe. When I think about this idea of intellect, we need to keep learning. We need to keep growing. We need to start reflecting, recognizing our different paths and our different journeys. Often when we're in prolonged seasons of uncertainty, like what we are facing right now, what's happening is that people are putting a lot of these things on hold. They're not learning and growing per se. They're just trying to get by, which is a coping strategy in itself. But one of the ways that we can keep moving forward is finding ways to learn, finding ways to go deeper, finding ways to be inspired and motivated. It's going to help in the long run. Now, what I've done for you today is I've curated a list for you of some of my favorite approaches to wellness that subscribe to this greater depth and breadth of the definition of wellness that we're working with in this segment. So what I want to do is introduce these in the form of habits or routines. And we're going to talk more about this in an upcoming segment, but I wanted to leave you with 3 guiding principles to get us started. And I have worked with persons all over the world from so many different backgrounds. I've worked with everything from like toddlers through teenagers, all the way to Olympians, to giants and CEOs, all the way to frontline workers, my responders, my military members, and still in classrooms. So I appreciate that these have been, so to speak, field tested. I know these work and they're practical. Now, to think about these 3 strategies, what I wanted to let you know is that you do need a wee bit of discipline, but you don't need discipline in every life area. And I think that's one of the misconceptions out there about wellness. We have to dial all of these different gears. I don't think we need to have wellness in that sense of everything dialed in and discipline across the board from morning to night, because as creatures, we like our freedom and flexibility. So we don't need rigidness all the way through. So these are small suggestions, but I hope you see the value add here. The first one is called bookending your day. Now, when we think about bookending your day, what I want you to think about is protecting the first hour of the day. And then I want you to protect the last hour of the day. The first hour of your morning or your day or whenever you wake up, I want you to fill it up with things that make you feel active and alert and ready. I want you to fill it up with those simple routines and rituals that really ground you in the type of day you're going to have. Now, I also want folks to make up your mind what kind of day you're going to have. I want you to set the intention that this is the kind of day I'm going to have. And I can let you know, as somebody who has lots of kind of things on the go and lots of emails, for example, that are coming in, I do not open my email without deciding first what kind of day I'm going to have, because I know that inbox is going to throw me for a loop. It's going to throw me in lots of different directions. I will not surrender my peace to email. So I make up my mind before I open myself to the world to make sure I have my mind made up what kind of day I'm going to have. Now, I also am mindful that this is a great time to actually get some of that self-care in, right? So whether it being going for a walk or having some time to meditate or even listen to a podcast or some journaling, say your prayers, have your morning coffee, just make sure you get yourself into that place where you have the mindset of what kind of day you want to have. Now, on the other side of bookending is this idea of closing your day out strong. I want you to end your day in a way that welcomes restoration. It welcomes mental chatter quieting down. It just really prepares your body for sleep and renewal. Now, when I work with persons, I often hear them say, "Robyne, I struggle with sleep." And I also see that their bedtime rituals aren't really preparing their bodies for sleep. So before you prepare your body for rest, you need to do some wind downs, quiet that mental chatter, and find your peace. I believe that you won't be able to sleep if you don't have peace. You have to surrender. You need to find whatever that is for you to find that pocket of peace. So then that way you can get some good rest. So that's bookending, starting your morning, winning your morning, and signing off at the end of the day in a way that serves you. That routine, that rhythm, that ritual that's going to help you get good rest. Now, the second suggestion I have for you here is called day mapping. And let me tell you, this is a game changer. It's very straightforward, but it has significant impact on how you feel. So what you do with day mapping is in the morning, I want you to grab a piece of paper. I still use a paper. I still use paper and a pencil, but you can use a device if that's more your thing. And what you're going to do is you're going to divide your your sheet into 3 columns. Okay. So you're going to have column number 1, column number 2, column number 3. You can even do this on a Post-it note if you wish. Now in column number 1, I want you to write your to-do list. What are those key deliverables you have to get done today? Now, I want you to have radical priorities. I don't want 20 things on that to-do list because you're going to get half of them done and feel like you didn't do enough. Realistic expectation setting. So have radical priorities on your to-do list. What are those few key deliverables you're going to get done? Now, on column number 2, this is the game changer. Okay. Column number 2, I want you to write your to-be list. How do you want to feel today? I know on my to-do list, I have lots of tasks. On my to-be list, I have to be focused. Nothing bothers me more than losing a day to randomness and reactivity. I want to be in charge of my day. I also know that I want to feel patient With 3 teenagers in this house, I want to feel patient, and I also want to feel present. I want my thoughts to have a gentle place to land. And what's interesting, every time I look at my to-do list, I also see the feeling that I'm working towards. And at the end of the day, it's the feeling that counts. It's how you feel, because when you feel well, then you can be of service to others. And the third column, this is so much fun. I encourage you to have fun with your third column. This is your not to-do list. What are the things that you are not going to do today? Now, I can tell you on my not to-do list today, I actually wrote, I can read this verbatim. It says, Robyne will not drink cold coffee. And I know you're probably thinking, like, really, what does that have to do with anything? Drinking cold coffee signals to me that I am moving too quickly. It means that I'm not slowing down enough just to meet some basic needs of having a hot cup of coffee. I also sometimes write the rule that I'm not going to microwave the same cup of coffee twice, right? I can warm it up once, but not twice. So little things like that just help you stay focused. It helps to make sure you're meeting your needs. Another thing that might be on your not to-do list is something that I like to call doom scrolling. Now, doom scrolling is when you actually need a break. You're tired, you're depleted, you need to rest, but instead we pick up our devices and then we go scrolling through these devices hours on end, to the point where our hand goes to sleep from holding it quicker than our brain does. So I want us to maybe set the intention of not doing that doom scrolling. That's numbing behavior. It doesn't serve you. And that just leads into this need to multitask, which we're going to talk about in our next segment. Now, the last suggestion I have for you here around cultivating wellness is this idea about connecting with nature. Nature is a gift. She shows us resiliency all through her seasons. We see restoration and renewal. When you go outside, your productivity is dramatically increased. There's an increase in problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and innovation. Some of the best ideas in the world, they didn't happen at boardroom tables. They didn't happen behind desks and monitors. They happen when we go outside and feel abundance. When you're inside all day, you feel shortage and scarcity. It is absolutely crucial that we connect with nature. And again, that one brisk walk once a day, even in the darker days of winter, bundle up, get outside. You're just one step away from getting outside to feeling a deeper sense of wellness. Now, one of the things that I reflect on often, and a colleague shared this with me, is this idea that it's dangerous to go into debt with your self-care. We can't go into debt with our self-care. We can't pour from an empty cup. And I can let you know, for both caregivers and frontline workers, is that I think we've actually, some of us have shifted away from just not having time for self-care to actually accepting self-neglect. We have put our needs so far down the list that they just seem irrelevant. So my invitation for you is to revisit why self-care matters. Remind yourself, who's counting on you? What example are you showing for the people around you in terms of you prioritizing your own wellness? One of the lessons that I learned very quickly with COVID, when I had to pivot to work remotely, and all of a sudden I was modeling my workday for 3 teenagers, I realized very quickly I was not setting a very good example. I realized that I was working without boundaries. I realized that I was skipping lunchtime sometimes to try and get tasks done, and I wasn't shutting down. I wasn't transitioning out of my workday. I don't want to model that for my children. I want to show them that there's a better way to do this, and our wellness counts. You don't have to earn your wellness or the opportunity to take your wellness. Each and every one of us are enough, and each and every one of us has the right to be well. So thank you, merci miigwech, and I'll see you in our next segment.